Mano gerą bičiulį Olandijos užsienio reikalų ministrą. Turėjom tikrai išsame, nuoširdžią diskusiją svarbiausiais klausimais mums, mūsų regione. I was supposed to have this in English. I'm terribly sorry.
No worries at all. I'm learning every single minute.
Yes. So I will restart this. Usually we have this with translation. So indeed, it's I'm very grateful for today's visit. We have Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Netherlands here in Vilnius with us, who had a very frank and comprehensive discussion about most important issues of security of our region, of what can be further done to support Ukraine in this unprecedented times of the war that was started against the sovereign country by Russia. Also, we've covered how can we reach a broader consensus when it comes to furthering sanctions. In many cases, we are like-minded, Lithuania and Netherlands, but obviously there's an understanding that we need a wide consensus among the 27 to have an agreement reached, and to further other steps that could be taken when it comes to sanctions. And also, we've covered the security needs of the Baltic region. I'm very grateful that Dutch troops are already in Lithuania, and I know that the decision has been made to further increase those numbers with additional equipment as well. So it's a very important message, not only to the political decision makers here in Lithuania, the Baltic states, but also to the broader public, that Netherlands, as our ally, stands together when it comes to our defense. I also had a chance to present our point of view, where we think that there's a need for a strategic overlook of the situation, because it changed that dramatically, where we need to come from deterrence to actually being able to defend the Baltic states in case that would be needed. Thank you, and I will give the floor to my friend Wopke, please.
Comrades, thank you very much for having me and for having the Dutch delegation. It's a great pleasure to be here with you, even though, ladies and gentlemen, the times are of course very, very challenging. And we have discussed at length today, but also on earlier occasions, how what we have seen in the last 2 weeks truly is changing the world, and how peace and stability and prosperity within Europe are under attack, and how we stand truly united in helping our friends in Ukraine. Individual countries are doing that through military equipment. We're doing that together as a European Union through humanitarian aid. We're doing that through economic aid, and we should continue to do so. We should also continue to look into sanctions, as we discussed today, but as we've also done within the European Union in the previous weeks, and that debate will indeed continue. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm also here, and Mr. Landsbergio and I discussed today and on previous occasions to show that our commitment to NATO and to the Baltic states is imperative, and that we will live up to it in full. That is why Dutch troops are stationed here in Lithuania. That is why we have increased the number of troops in Lithuania. And that is why there is such a broad commitment from all of the NATO countries with their presence in the Baltic states. We're all covering the 3 countries, and we're doing so not only to signal that we are willing and able to help out, but also to make sure that, if necessary, as the American president has said, not an inch is acceptable. So thank you very much, Gabrielis, for having me. It's the second time here, it's the second time I have the opportunity to visit the Dutch troops. I'm going to go there this afternoon, and we will continue the debate and the discussion as very much like-minded countries on each and every angle of the very difficult situation that we face. But the one thing we will convey today and also in the weeks ahead is this message of unity within the European Union and within NATO. Thank you very much.
And for your questions, please come to the microphone, present yourself, and state to which minister you are addressing your question.
Lithuanian Radio, National Radio and Television. First question for both. You were talking about sanctions. Should the next step would be sanctions on energy? And then question for the Minister of the Netherlands. What would be consequences of that for the Netherlands? And another question is that Bloomberg is saying that the Netherlands are one of the countries that are doubting if Ukraine is ready to join the EU. Could you comment on that? Thank you.
What do you say? Well, our answer is quite a simple one. Lithuania has no red lines for when it comes to sanctions. That means we're ready to discuss everything that is on the table currently. That includes energy. I think that, and yesterday it was mentioned that oil is a good place to start at this point, because it brings more revenues to Russian budget than, let's say, gas, and it's easier replaceable by other producers. So we know that it won't be an easy debate, easy discussion. Countries have different positions, but we're ready to participate in a meaningful and consensus-seeking manner.
Well, we take a very similar position. We have said that in itself there are no measures out of bounds for the Netherlands, including energy. The one thing I would like to convey, though, is that it is extremely important that we take into account the position of all our European allies, and some of them are much more dependent on oil and gas, also from Russia, than the Netherlands. So whatever we do, we should be able to do in a united way, and others should be able to bear that burden as well. On Ukraine, the Netherlands has said before that we would be very much in favor of making sure and conveying the message that Ukraine and the future of Ukraine is clearly within the European family. At the same time, the most important thing is that we help out with the situation that we now all face through television and through the internet, which is truly devastating. We see the human suffering, we see the war that is going on, so the most effective thing to do is help them with their clear and present danger that they're now facing. And that means that we need to do as much as we can from a humanitarian perspective, an economic perspective, individual countries also from a military perspective. That is the challenge that we face now, and that is the challenge that we need to face as European Union.
Morning. Dutch TV. I have three questions for Mr. Landsbergio. The first one, many of your colleagues here in the last couple of days, weeks, to talk about the war in Ukraine. Your country and other Baltic states also have been warning for Russian threats for a long time. How many times did you need to tell them, we told you so?
Well, there's a different phrase that you were using currently, and that's not the one that is looking to the past, but it's the one looking to the future. We're saying that when you hear something from the Baltic states currently, you probably should be doing that.
Can you elaborate on that?
Well, I mentioned several things. We're very specific about our security needs, what is needed, because we are thinking that the situation is changing still, and it already has changed, but it's still changing still. And the concepts that were applied to securing the Baltic region, they were built on that the country, currently the aggressor, Russia, does not have an intention to attack. And you have a very different concept then. Then you calculate the army that it has, the distances that it takes for it to arrive somewhere closer. But basically everything is built on the lack of intention. Why should Russia, why should Kremlin, why should Putin give an order to attack anybody? And now we're seeing that this conception failed to realize. He has an intention, and he used the intention to attack Ukraine. So now we have to rethink, because we have a country very close to us who actually is a military aggressor currently in these ages, in the 21st century.
So the next warning actually which comes now from your country, your president said yesterday, deterrence is not enough anymore. We need to rethink NATO's response. What is your biggest security concern, and what needs to be changed?
Well, I very rarely go into specifics. It's best to be mentioned and spoken from the people who are responsible for actually tactical defense, that's Ministry of Defense or the Army. They can mention how many planes, troops, missile defense is needed. We here, as diplomats, as politicians, we tend to speak about the concept, about the change of the concept and the attitude. And I think that this is the biggest change that can and should happen. But to be honest, we're seeing that change. And there were some encouraging messages last week from NATO Ministerial on Friday, and General Secretary Jens Stoltenberg mentioned that the change is already happening. So we are patiently waiting and happy that the Baltics are already being heard.
How concerned are you about Putin's nuclear threats?
Not specifically. I think that it's currently is used as a distraction for us, not to have more objects in there to think about, not just keep focused on Ukraine. But we've heard messages from the United States and from NATO that there's nothing to worry about.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Yes, in this what you Dutch CKP. I have a question for Mr. Landsbergio. The Dutch army is sending an extra 70 troops, but they are part of it is flexible. Is it enough? Would you like to see more Dutch troops here in Lithuania?
Well, first of all, we are grateful for the troops that are being sent here. It's an important message of solidarity and political and military responsibility that Dutch people take upon them in order to secure the Baltic countries. From tactical perspective, again, I mentioned that answering the earlier question, that it's best that the army planners, or NATO planners, even more so, that they would tell what, where, and how much is needed. Because it comes down now to the tactical issues, where the troops need to be placed, what kind of troops, with what kind of equipment, even firepower is already being calculated into the equation. So I think we are nearing a bit different stage where a political message is sent by the minister here, saying that that we are here, Article 5 is sacrosanct, it's ironclad, and the commitments are there, and then military planners take care of the rest, and it's so better if we don't answer these these sort of questions, because we might make a mistake or something like that.
One question is, Mr. Lavrov and his Ukrainian counterpart are meeting later this week. How do you see those talks? Are you optimistic about it, or?
Well, I think as the two of us have said all the time, is that we are always open to support a diplomatic solution and conversations. So in itself, it is good that these take place. However, it is also crucially important that we continue to see what is conflict is all about, who started it, and who is guilty of creating it. And our Ukrainian friends should never be blackmailed in going to the negotiation table. So if they think it is wise and the timing is right to have these conversations, we will of course support them. And we're both in very close contact with Kuleba and of course with our other colleagues. And we will support any diplomatic solution that is viable for them. Yeah. But it should be on their initiative, it should be on their terms. And again, they should not be blackmailed into going to the negotiation table.
Absolutely support what Wopke said.
Good morning. Good Hoekstra, Financial Times. I have a question for Mr. Landsbergio in the European context. Brussels has plans, will announce today more plans to get rid of Russian energy by 2030. How tough do you think this will be? And in relation to that, do you think Lithuania can get LNG, for instance, from the Netherlands? And the second question in that sense, is Lithuania in favor of putting military spending outside of the stability and growth package?
Well, first of all, Lithuania is kind of a good example of energy independence. We've been, well, warning since 2008 because we've been constantly I would say a victim of energy attacks from Russia. We've been paying the highest prices in Europe for our gas. Our oil pipeline was broke all of a sudden and was still is under reparation. So what we did, we've built our own LNG terminal. In 2014, it became operational, and it's very rightfully called Independence. So it could be used as an example of what lessons we've learned, what measures did we take, and what can be done in order to secure the energy independence for all the countries. I know that situations are different. I know that not every country has a port, ability to have a floating LNG terminal, but then again, we've invested our own taxpayers' money in order to secure the country the gas supply that it needs, and it can be done for others. Now, the second question, it's an interesting idea. We're looking into it, and we are looking for the ways how to build a consensus around it.
And of course, when we're looking at energy security, it's a very long-term topic in the end. Does it help Ukraine at this moment to now already start talking in a European Brussels context to get rid of Russian energy?
I think that the things can be done and move faster, especially when there is a consensus in Europe or even in the wider context. I think that things can move very fast. And even infrastructure-wise, I think that things can be done and really we can achieve wide and effective results much faster.
Right. Mr. Hoekstra, would you care to respond?
No, I fully agree. And if the last 2 weeks have shown us anything, it is the unity, but also the speed with which the European Union has delivered. Now, looking back, it is crystal clear that we should have done more as a continent on energy independence. And I've also said in the Netherlands that we as a country should have done more. And I've been in the cabinet for 4 years, and I can also blame it on myself because it is something that we haven't seen for what it truly was as a European family. We cannot change the past. What we can do is deliver on tomorrow and make sure that we get that energy independence as quickly as possible, because the one thing Europe needs to secure is that for all things that are of strategic importance, we can deliver on them by ourselves. And we're no longer dependent, whether it is energy or other critical infrastructure, on a player like Russia, because you see how difficult it makes the discussions that we have today.
One final question. How do both of you look at the potential donation of fighter jets from NATO countries to Ukraine?
Well, I think that every country, first of all, has to make its own decision. Lithuania supports all weapon deliveries to Ukraine. Specific details, I don't think, when they're mentioned publicly, I don't think that they're helpful neither to Ukraine nor to the country who is possibly doing the deliveries. So, in principle, we support everything that is being sent, and we're doing our part, and we encourage others to do their part.
I agree, and it is for very clear reasons that the Netherlands, which is atypical, has also contributed, and the reason we are doing that as a country is that we see that what is at stake is, of course, a nightmare for Ukraine itself, but there's also the European stability and European peace is at stake here, is under attack here. And that is why we, like Lithuania and so many others, have taken this unorthodox step and provided Ukraine with weapons. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ministers. Thank you for questions.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.